Morning, everybody. Last night, Andrew Scheer was in Kitchener doing a town hall style campaign event, and CBC Politics says, quote, Scheer says he didn't hear town hall question alleging Clinton Foundation is part of child trafficking and child sacrifice. Read the story here, and we'll read the story in just a minute. I'll let you listen to the question and the answer, and then I'm going to get into this a little bit. So here we go.
Trudeau gave $600 million to the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation is part of child trafficking and child sacrifice. If you study it, it's in the Pizzagate. And how do we get that money back? Because there should be the MP, the PM. If he knows about the foundation, he should be in jail for that one. And also, he needs to pay back the $600 million plus his trips after the Canadian.
Yes. Well. I appreciate your concerns on this, and we obviously just had a question on the priorities of this Liberal government, and I can assure you that when you look at where Justin Trudeau has spent money, it's clear that a huge sum of the dollars that he has taken from Canadian taxpayers has gone to his own personal projects. You mentioned the Clinton Foundation, you mentioned there are other examples.
You were asked a question that linked Justin Trudeau to the Pizzagate conspiracy, which we all know is false. It's been debunked, and there's even been violent incidents in light of this whole thing. So why did you not call it out when you were asked that question?
I heard the question was related to the government's, Justin Trudeau's decision to give a grant to the Clinton Foundation. That was what I answered. I didn't hear anything about the other aspect that you just mentioned.
You mentioned Pizzagate theory. Pizzagate conspiracy, yeah.
I didn't hear that. I heard the Clinton Foundation part of the question. I heard other parts of the questions, but I certainly didn't hear that.
So what was he doing? Like, you watched the question being asked. What was he doing? Was he just standing there, phasing out, blah, blah, blah? What's that guy saying? Oh, he said something about the Clinton Foundation. Is that who you want running the country? Oh, I didn't hear the Pizzagate part. Sorry about that. Pizzagate part. And I found it interesting, and here's the article. I'll read you just this top part here, okay? So the article is, Scheer says he didn't hear question about Clinton Pizzagate lie during town hall. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer said today he didn't hear a question asked at a town hall event about an infamous and widely debunked conspiracy theory connecting former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton to a child sex ring. At one point during the event in Kitchener, Ontario last night, a member of the audience rose to ask Scheer a 2-minute question touching on several subjects, including immigration funding and international aid. He then linked Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to the mythical conspiracy theory known as Pizzagate, which gained traction around the 2016 United States presidential election. Quote, Trudeau gave $600 million to the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation is part of child trafficking and child sacrifice. If you study it, it's in the Pizzagate, he said. I actually don't think that's what he said. I think he said it's Pizzagate if you study it, but whatever. Anyway, the PM, if he knows about the foundation, should be in jail for that one. Also, he needs to pay back the $600 million plus his trips to the Canadians. So the interesting part about this is every single time this is brought up by the reporter here, and twice in this article, in a matter of 2 paragraphs, widely debunked mythical conspiracy theory. They say it's been debunked. It has not been debunked. This is Ben Swan. Ben Swan had a program on CBS, I think it's CBS, called Reality Check. It was a feeder station. It was like Chicago, CBS Chicago, right? So Ben Swan wasn't national. He was just a Chicago reporter doing Reality Check. This was a really small thing, but it was a big win. I remember watching this like the day after it actually aired, the day he got suspended, and everything got taken down about him online. Everything scrubbed about him. But he goes through Pizzagate. I'm not going to play this because I'm sure this is somebody's property and I don't want to get a copyright strike. But if you don't know about Pizzagate, this is the best too long didn't read from 2016. No investigation has ever taken place. No investigation took place before this, and no investigation took place after this. Everybody in the news just says it's debunked. It's a debunked mythical conspiracy theory. People don't traffic children. Ha ha ha. Pedophilia doesn't exist. Ha ha ha. Except there are a lot of examples in history where powerful people engage in pedophilia and ritualistic, cultish things. This is proven. The Vatican and Catholic priests, pedophilia and rape, and probably child trafficking. The Franklin report, or the Franklin scandal. And there are even documentaries on Netflix that highlight the Franklin scandal specifically, but there are other ones as well. And so dismissing this, one of the former speakers of the House is currently in prison. His name is Hastert. I think I'll double check, but that's just off the top of my head. And he's currently serving jail time. He was a former Speaker of the House. He's serving jail time for pedophilia. He was the Speaker of the House. Hold on, I'm going to get the... Dennis Hastert. Here it is. And he was House Speaker in 1999. And he's currently serving jail time for pedophilia. So, I mean, when you talk about powerful people and conspiracy theories that are debunked by an owned press, and when things like a report like this gets out, it's scrubbed, and this guy's given a suspension. Watch this report. Do you think it deserves a suspension? He got fired 2 years later, too, for trying to bring back Reality Check. Right, 2018. Yeah. So, interesting that Pizzagate is rearing its head in the Canadian election because Justin Trudeau did give money to the Clinton Foundation, $600 million of it. Why did he do that? Because this was known in 2016. This isn't new. Why has there been no investigation? Why are people giving money to the Clinton Foundation? Why is nobody upset about that? All right, and moving on, I found this article posted last night just before I went to bed, and I don't like MPCelina. I think that she is racist. I think this new redefinition of racism encourages racism, and I don't like it. And I think Miss MPCelina engages in that with reckless abandon, and I don't like that either. However, she is an MP in caucus, she is an MP in Liberal caucus, and she is holding Mr. Trudeau to account. So I'm going to report on her. So she says, the Globe and Mail is reporting, Liberal MP Selina Cesar Chavanez, sorry if I've got that wrong, madam, says when she was met with hostility, anger in private Trudeau talks. Liberal MP Selina Cesar Chavanez says she was met with hostility and anger from Justin Trudeau when she told him she was leaving politics, prompting her to speak out about the Prime Minister's behavior. Ms. Cesar Chavanez sent out a tweet earlier this week after Mr. Trudeau spoke about his leadership style during a news conference to address allegations of political interference between his office and former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould on SNC Lavalin. Quote, I did come to you recently, twice. Remember your reactions? Wrote Miss Cesar Chavanez, who worked closely with Mr. Trudeau and his parliamentary secretary from December 2015 to January 2017. Speaking for the first time in an interview with the Globe and Mail about what she meant by her post, Ms. Cesar Chavanez outlined a series of interactions with Mr. Trudeau in recent weeks, including one witnessed by members of the House that says left her feeling unsupported. She turned to social media after Mr. Trudeau stated that real leadership is about listening, showing compassion, and fostering an environment in which caucus is comfortable coming to him with concerns. Ms. Cesar Chavanez, who has repeatedly offered public support for Ms. Wilson-Raybould, says she felt he did not show those qualifications in her personal discussions in recent weeks. In response to detailed questions from the Globe and Mail, Matt Pasciuzzo, sorry if I got that wrong, sir, a spokesman for the Prime Minister's office said, quote, the Prime Minister has a deep respect for Selina Cesar Chavanez, and there's no question the conversations in February were emotional, but there was absolutely no hostility. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, he is committed to fostering an environment where ministers, caucus, and staff feel comfortable approaching him when they have concerns or disagreements. That happened here. Ha! She experienced it differently, right? No problem. Mr. Trudeau said that everything was fine. Everybody was a little bit, what did he say, emotional, but there was no hostility, right? You experienced it differently. I wasn't hostile. I was emotional. Maybe that's your womanness experiencing it differently. Or is it your blackness? Who knows, right? It's just Mr. Trudeau and Miss Cesar Chavanez experiencing things differently for whatever reason, right? Let's not be divisive about it. Miss Cesar Chavanez, a first-term MP from the Toronto area, said she had told Mr. Trudeau in a phone call on February 12th that she would be announcing her decision not to run again in the October election. She said Mr. Trudeau told her to wait because Miss Wilson-Raybould had quit cabinet that day. She felt that he was worried about the optics of having two women of color leaving, Miss Cesar Chavanez said. Ms. Cesar Chavanez said she had told him that she hoped he could one day understand the impact that political life has had on her family. She said threats to her safety have been made against her in the past. Quote, he was yelling that I didn't appreciate him, that he'd given me so much, Ms. Cesar Chavanez said. She said that she yelled back at him, and Mr. Trudeau eventually apologized. She said she agreed to his request the next day to hold off on making her announcement until early March. A week later, after a caucus meeting, Ms. Cesar Chavanez says she had approached Mr. Mr. Trudeau to talk about their previous interaction. I went to him. I said, look, I know our last conversation wasn't the greatest, but... And at that point, I stopped talking because I realized he was angry, she said. Again, I was met with hostility, the stare down, then him stomping out of the room without a word. The PMO said the two posed for a photo together and their interaction was brief. She said Mr. Trudeau had apologized again later that day prior to a vote on Conservative motion in the House of Commons. Opposition MPs have told the Globe she had appeared visibly upset. Quote, he came back in and said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, she said. I was upset and I left. I was angry. I was angry because this guy holds a lot of power, and in the first conversation, I asked him to consider the impact on my family, and he didn't do that. Quote, at the end, she says, I hope that when we talk about changing politics, we do it from the foundation of not everybody who is outside of your red, blue, or orange structure is the enemy, and not everything within the red, blue, or orange has to be exactly the way you want it to be. So, interesting experiences relayed by Miss Scheer Caesar Chivenez. Sorry for my stuttering on her name. I didn't want to screw it up, and I felt like I was going to keep screwing it up. So that's why that was happening. I apologize, everyone. My brain did not get there in time. About halfway through, I picked it up. But I find it interesting where she was talking about how he was yelling at her. And I mean, can you imagine if Trump went off on a congressperson and was yelling at AOC or something to that effect? What kind of optics would that send? What kind of, how would the newspaper go after Mr. Trump were he to do exactly what Mr. Trudeau has done this year to Miss Caesar Chivenez, right? Is that fairness in the press? Is that the kind of press we want? Like, and I'm not saying they should go after Justin Trudeau. I'm saying they should actually look for balance and report facts rather than try and sensationalize everything that falls into their narrative and diminish and minimize things that don't. I mean, you know, there was no editorializing with regards to how people should feel about Justin Trudeau yelling at Mr. or Miss Caesar Chivenez, right? Interesting. However, if you go to a Globe and Mail article about Trump, man, that guy's terrible, right? So it's just interesting to see how the press covers this, interesting to see how Mr. Trudeau behaves behind closed doors, and interesting to see what's next. Is this the next phase of this coup? Is this the Trudeau's got enough rope to hang himself, and now we're going to drag his name through the mud until he relents, until he steps down or resigns leadership? Or I don't think he'll resign leadership. I don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, be aware when somebody labels something a debunked conspiracy theory, maybe there's more to that story. And when somebody says, I'm a woke feminist who wants to bring equality and inclusivity to Canada, maybe he means he's a rampant, I don't know, jerk of a male who shouldn't claim the mantle of feminist without actually having done anything that proves anything of the sort. Okay, thanks for watching. Sorry that was a little rambly. Saturday morning, I don't know. And have a great day. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca.